Sifu is a really awesome game. When it comes to its minute-to-minute action, it's rewarding and very addictive. Sifu is a game that makes you feel as proficient as John Wick in one fight, and as bad as an amateur in another. You are continually learning and bettering your skill each time you start a level. There is some normal progression like unlocking new moves and upgrades from shrines, but the bulk of Sifu's progression comes from the player's skill, and this is where I could not put this game down. On top of this, the story is simple and very good with some appreciated style in its presentation. This is a game that grabs you right from the start and delivers a killer opening. I really enjoyed this one. Sifu's gameplay is all centered around the combat. You can perform light and heavy attacks and pull off several combos with different button combinations. For defense, you can guard attacks, and if you time them just right, you can parry an enemy's attack, allowing for a big opening to do a lot of damage. There is a dash that you can use as well to avoid attacks that cannot be parried. Both the sound effects and impact of your hits are very satisfying. The enemy's reactions mixed with the rewarding smacks and thuds adds a lot of weight to each of the fights. Sifu has a nice sense of flow to its combat, especially when you're fighting a group of people. For example, I never got tired of beating up on one enemy, and then quickly executing a parry as another enemy tries to hit me. These small moments of success make you feel like a kung fu master. Another thing to note is how responsive this combat system is. The core of what makes this game so awesome is how it is endlessly entertaining to fight off your foes. While you are fighting, you need to pay attention to the focus and structure bars. As you hit an enemy, you will slowly break their structure bar. Once the structure bar is broken, then you can perform a takedown on them, and this usually will instantly take them out. Some of these finishers are really brutal, and come paired with a more dynamic camera enhancing these attacks. As you hit enemies, you will build up your focus bar. Once your bar is full, you can unleash a set of useful moves like being able to stun enemies. Adding to the fun of the fighting are how there's a decent variety of weapon pickups that you can use. You will find everything from bats to sake bottles and brooms. Some nice touches with how the weapons will degrade as you hit enemies. And after an upgrade, you can continue to use your weapons even when they are severely damaged. I really like how you can throw each of these weapons for a quick hit on an enemy, and in some cases the enemies will even catch the weapon in mid-air. And lastly, I was impressed with the level of destruction available in the environments. Everything can break from tables, chairs, vases, and even more. Small details like this add more weight to each of the fights, and shows how the player's actions are actively affecting the levels. Sifu has some rogue elements. For example, there is an interesting death mechanic. As you die, your character will age, and your death counter will go up as well. You will notice subtle visual changes to your character's appearance as you go up in age, but as you go up each decade, your maximum health will take a hit, but you will now do more damage. This essentially means that as you age, you will slowly turn into a glass cannon, and there is a bit of a risk and reward element to it. As you continually die, your death counter will go up, and that means each of your deaths will hurt even more. Meaning at one point in the game, a death may only cost you 1 year, but another could cost you 6 depending on your counter. But I do like the trade-off of being able to do more damage. Honestly, this creates interesting dynamics for replaying each of the levels. Can I beat the game with minimal aging? Or maybe should I try something else? Once you die and come back, you come back right where you were, with no reset to the enemies. But if you age past 70 and die again, you will die and go back to the hub. Part of the death mechanic demands the player to get even better with their skill. You can only start the next level at the age that you ended the prior one at. So if I beat the first level at age 30, then the lowest level I can start the next level is 30. But if I replay the first level again and finish at 21, then I can start the next level even lower. So you're pushed to replay and perfect each of the levels before moving on to the next one to give you the best chance at the upcoming level. And this all folds back into bettering your player skill. Sifu is made up of 5 core levels, and I really want to give credit to how memorable each of these levels are. They have unique rooms, areas, and a distinct main boss to bookend each level. The developers do a good job of playing within these spaces. The first level has you fighting through rooftops, and then you end up in a forest at the end. Another has you in a museum and makes good use of the space with you fighting through interesting exhibits. Since you will be playing the levels several times, you will unlock shortcuts and alternative paths that keep them interesting as well. As you defeat enemies, you will earn XP, and you can use this to unlock more moves. And when you find shrines, you can use these to decrease your total age, add more focus bars, and earn more health on takedowns along with other options. Now I want to mention the story. The narrative here is a revenge tale told in a simple way with a lot of great style. The opening sequence in Sifu effectively pulls the player in. It starts with a nice piece of gameplay while creating some mystery as you're being introduced to this world. The opening credit sequence caps this all off very well by mixing in tutorial elements as you fight each one of your targets. Sifu has a lot of personality. Now before we get into the flaws, I need to discuss how hard this game is. Sifu is really tough and you cannot button mash your way to victory. You will need to read your enemy's attacks and know when to parry and dash, along with knowing when to attack yourself. Sifu is very fun every time you're in a fight, but this is not a game that everyone will enjoy, but it is one that I think everyone should try. Now when Sifu released, it did not come with difficulty options, and I really like that since it showed how the developers were committed to the game being focused on skill. Now after the release, the developers updated their game with an easy and hard mode. I would generally take an issue with the inclusion of an easy mode like this for this game, but the fact that they added both an easier and a harder mode so soon after launch tells me this was probably intended from the get-go. My main issue comes from how the easy mode is done. Easy mode eliminates the death counter mechanic, so in easy mode each time you die you will only age 1 year for each of the deaths, and the deaths are no longer compounded. This takes a lot of the risk out of the game. Providing the player with more health on easy is good for this mode, but completely removing the death counter is odd. Easy mode should have been structured so that you learn the mechanics in an easier environment, but by taking much of the consequence out of death, easy mode is now reinforcing players to just brute force their way through it, and treat Sifu as a button masher instead of pushing the player to actually learning the game. I do think easy mode needs more work. I do have some other flaws as well. I find level 2 to be a big difficulty spike compared to the first and third levels, and could benefit from better balancing. The boss fights are visually impressive and can be fun to figure out, but I do not think this is where this game is at its best. Fighting groups of enemies and clearing rooms is where Sifu truly shines. Lastly, the final boss feels dragged out, and you cannot use focus attacks on him. This is really odd since many of the upgrades are dedicated to increasing your focus bars, or providing you with new focus moves, and to completely eliminate this in the final boss is very bad. Now before we move to the conclusion, I want to mention the soundtrack. Everything from the main credits to the different action music is all awesome. Here are a few tracks from the game. Sifu is one of those rare games where it grabbed me right from the start. The opening is easily one of the best of 2022. It effectively gets the player into the gameplay quickly with plenty of style and great presentation. What really made this game for me was the minute-to-minute action. I honestly could not get enough of the fighting here. It never got old to successfully take down someone or parry an enemy's blow. It is really hard and I'm horrible at this game, but I found a lot of satisfaction in replaying levels and learning to clear rooms better. I hope this game continues to receive updates and patches to improve some of the lacking areas in this game, as there is something special here. This is an easy recommendation from me, but considering the high level of difficulty, I would say for those hesitant about jumping in, wait for a sale and then give it a try. For those looking for a challenge, get this today. If you are interested in being notified of new videos, please hit the subscribe button and bell. And if you would like to support the channel and get early access to content, please check out my Patreon. All of the links will be at the end of this video and within the description. And thank you very much for watching.